There is a girl I'd like you to meet. I will not be sharing any photo of hers because I want you to imagine how that looks like. But I will be sharing a few bits and pieces about her life. She doesn't stand out at first, and she plays by the rules. She's good at blending in, and she makes friends and acquaintances very easily. People feel that they can share things with her because she's very open. She does not judge, and when she smiles, her eyes smile. She makes no unnecessary noise, and she works very hard, and she's learning very quickly. She believes in blueprints, patterns, and she cherished all those given by her parents. She's adopted, and she feels great about it. You see, she knows it from a very young age. Her mother used to tell her this bedtime story about a girl up until the age of 3 or 4, about an adopted girl that was deeply loved. Adoption was never a wound for her. Her adopted parents were the most caring, generous, and most honest people she ever met. They taught her love, resilience, and hope. They taught her to value all of the things that are around her and to cherish the people she's in communication with. She is also taught to always accept the other and respect other people just the way they are. When she thinks about her parents, she remembers their hugs, their warm embrace, and how they empowered her through every step of her life. But that stopped at the age of 18. On November 26, 2008, her father dies of a heart attack right outside her house. She is then traveling to Thessaloniki for a conference. She's called back to Athens without knowing that the last conversation that she would have with her father would be to please reload my phone credit because I need to go out. She is shattered, she clings on, and she fights to find a balance between Greek university and her new tutoring job. She supports her mother, whom she thinks she's losing. Her mother is deeply depressed and starting to fade away. She then comes to deal with the chaos that followed all on her own. Exactly 3 years and 3 days after her father's passing, on November 29, 2011, her mother dies of aggressive lung cancer. 2 days before her mother's passing, and while visiting her at the hospital, her apartment caught fire. She is then left with no clothes and home for the next 8 months. Just like that, the blueprints she thought she had are gone, and along went the instructions for her adult life. In the silence that follows, she's drowning. She's left to deal with every detail on her own. She's lost, and she's not handed a new map. So she does what she knows best. She performs, she excels, she survives. Life for her becomes a never-ending ladder. She becomes also severely depressed and angry. She's very angry at the whole world. But here's the truth she spent discovering the next 15 years. The most important thing you can do while you're coping, it's not to learn more, it's to unlearn. So what is unlearning? Unlearning isn't forgetting. It involves shaking off habits. It's not about new years and new yous, because we all have that. Unlearning is questioning and doubting and revisiting what you know over and over and over again. It's looking at what you were taught and practiced and asking, is this still true for me in the present time, space, and circumstances? It's a psychological process of replacing outdated behavioral norms and the sociological process of rejecting behavioral patterns. As I said, the girl in our story is very good at learning, but until she was so brutally forced to adult alone, no one taught her to challenge and question what she was living. She never thought to ask 3 simple questions. Why do I associate worth with excellence? Why do I think that being strong means never asking for help? Why am I so harsh on myself? That's the thing about social scripts. We don't realize that we are reading one until we trip over a line that makes no sense. So let's go back to the girl now. Grief has shaped her in many ways. Losing both her parents so young left her in fearful. As we said, she was depressed, and she thought that all of the people around her are meant to leave her, to abandon her, and that she actually deserves to be alone. She feels isolated, that no one can understand her, and that she will forever remain in this constant struggle. You see, while dealing with the grief, she's left to care for her two grandmothers, aged 80 and 87 at that time, with growing medical needs and high expectations. Bridging the gap with people 60 years older than you is too much at the age of 20-something. And yet, she did not collapse. Because what she learned was this: loss doesn't mean brokenness. Absence of a loved one creates space for meaning, for rebirth, and death. Grief is a form of love too. To date, she counts over 13 years of therapy. And therapy is a process of unlearning. It's the slow, uncomfortable, and necessary act of confronting your beliefs, your pain, and daring to reinvent and rewire yourself. In therapy, she learned silence. She learned self-blame, and she learned the belief that healing must be done alone. She begins naming things, and when you name things, you treat them. In her mid-20s, she falls in love. Their kind of love seemed cinematic at that point. You see, trauma brought the two together. Slowly, the frame of this happy couple tightens. It becomes a noose. Her voice softens, and her world shrinks. She starts apologizing for being the self that she had built. Her love becomes labor. Sacrifice for the better half becomes her new identity. In the name of partnership, she begins to unlearn her sense of self. The relationship becomes emotionally and physically abusive. She stays. She's now overweight, fighting diabetes, and she lives in the constant fear of having to cover up the bruises to go to college. She's so ashamed, so she stops seeing her friends. Nobody knows what is happening, and she shuts off her therapy group. Somewhere along the way, she was taught that love means endurance, that to live is to fail. Until one day, she unlearns that too. She learns that love without safety isn't love, that walking away is not a failure. It's returning to yourself. And she did walk away. Fast forward into the chapter that her career takes off. She is working in a very competitive environment, in the very high performance industry, in a big company. In this ecosystem, value is tied to output, optics, and the hours you put in. And she's very good. She's so good that she's left to handle over 200 clients by herself. She disappears into her productivity, working 18 hours a day, bringing new leads one after the other, until she becomes a target. First it's subtle, it's comments, exclusions. Then it's mobbing and sexual harassment at the client event. And then her manager, her department manager, does the unthinkable. He puts her in the position to choose between the work that actually gives you what you need to survive and speaking about what happened to you and others. It was at that moment she realized that the time has come once again to question the situation she's in. She demanded an apology for her and the 3 co-workers that were harassed at that event. Things rolled out calmly in the beginning. Then, one by one, all of the co-workers start to leave, and they are made the industry and the company. Ultimately, she is betrayed by the very same system that is there to protect her. She's told she's too sensitive by the CEO because, women, too emotional, too loud, sometimes make more of the situation. So she tries to be less. She burns out and she breaks. However, she's now more capable of understanding what she has to do. She learns perfection and dares to advocate for herself and others. This time, she prefers to quit rather than endure. She learns that quitting to protect herself is the right thing to do. In her farewell email, she actually exposes the toxic environment and urges clients and other employees to follow. Over the years, she slowly stops asking, who should I be? And begins asking, who do I choose to be? She surrounds herself with people who see her for who she's growing into. She builds a family, 2 cats and a dog, in a home that doesn't apologize for being loud, soft, and playful. She learns that relationships have to be hard. Her partner now helps her to grow and supports all of her decisions. With him, she learns that leading to another isn't weakness. She learns agency. She takes time for herself and works on her own company. She learns shame. She is openly discussing abuse, rape by your partner, adoption, and every instance of your life that might seem difficult because she knows that if you discuss things, other people can also discuss them and be helped. She unlearns the fear of starting again, and she begins to write new scripts. Ones not inherited, but intentionally crafted. The girl in a story is not a metaphor. I bet quite a few faces popped into your heads while I was narrating. You may also be wondering how I come to know her story that well. I know her story because I lived it. My name is Elpida, and I'm here to tell you that I'm still unlearning. My anxiety right now, as well tears coming down my face, is what the process of unlearning is all about. At this very moment, I am learning how to process anxiety in public speaking and actually sharing all the things that are difficult for you to share. I am no longer afraid of blank pages. 35 years ago, I was brought into this world having no clue of the life that I would lead. 15 years ago, I rewrote my blueprints. 10 years ago, I left my abuser. 3 years ago, I quit the agency that traumatized me, and I started a new chapter in my book of life with my partner. 1 year ago, I started my own agency, not knowing how it will play out. And just recently, I decided to go back to college. Had I not accepted to unlearn, I would not be standing in front of you today. I learned that I can write anything I want, and I can change it as many times as I want, right to the point that it feels safe for me. So now I want to ask you, hearing all these instances of, good and bad times, what belief about love, success, gender, identity do you feel you are ready to unlearn? What idea handed to you in childhood no longer fits the shape of your life? And if you let it go, what new version of yourself might emerge? We are not blank slates, and we will always collect experiences and opinions from other people. But we are rewritable. And rewriting is the only thing that is entirely under our control. We cannot build new futures with old blueprints, but we can draw better ones if we dare to question the ink that they were handed in, that they were with. And maybe, just maybe, that's where real growth begins. Thank you.